Hip hop is arguably the largest cultural and artistic contribution to come out of America in the last 100 years?
We realized as an institution that we needed to collect, understand, document, and celebrate hip hop and rap.
I've been waiting on a project like this my whole life.
Hello, my name is Dwan Reece, and I'm Associate Director for Curatorial Affairs and Curator of Music and Performing Arts at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Today, we are going to talk about the launch of the first ever Smithsonian Anthology of Hip Hop and Rap, a 300-page box set of illustrations, essays, detailed liner notes, and 129 tracks that tell the story of the history of hip hop from its origins to 2013. I'm happy today to bring together a panel of people who've been involved with the project to talk about the significance of hip hop at the Smithsonian and the significance of hip hop in American culture and worldwide. First up, we have LL Cool J, rapper, record producer, actor, and entrepreneur, and also a recent Kennedy Center honoree. Welcome, LL.
Thank you.
And next up, Chuck D, one of the members of our executive committee. He is the leader and co-founder of the legendary rap group Public Enemy, the author of 2 critically acclaimed books, a political activist, publisher, radio host, and producer. Welcome, Chuck.
Well, thank you and welcome.
Say Adams is a visual artist, graphic designer, and author. He was the founding creative director of Def Jam Recordings and has been described as legendary for his work in hip-hop graphic design. He is the designer of the Smithsonian Anthology, and we're happy to have him join us as well. Hi, Say.
How you doing? Good to see my people.
We have Lonnie G. Bunch III, who is the 14th Secretary of the Smithsonian. He has assumed the position in 2019, and as Secretary, he oversees 19 museums, 21 libraries, the National Zoo, numerous research centers, and several education units. He is also founding director of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. Welcome, Lonnie.
Good to see you all.
MC Lyte, thanks for joining us today. You're an executive committee member of the Smithsonian Anthology of Hip Hop and Rap, which is going to be released on August 20th. So I want to start with this question. Why is hip hop so integral to American history?
I would have to say hip hop is an integral part of America's history simply because it tells the story of so many individuals that make up a community, that make up the Black population of the United States of America. And I mean, not to mention, although it is a very important part of American history, is also world history at this point. Hip hop has influenced so many other youth in other countries to the degree now that we have generations of hip hop, not just here in America, but also abroad. It is the timeline. It makes up the fabric of what it is that we are and have been, because even when hip hop began, we were also telling stories of yesteryear. It is the fiber of America, hip hop.
You know, in many ways, part of what is so important about hip hop is that it, first of all, tells us so much about America. It tells us so much about urban America. It tells us so much about a diverse America, but it's also the sort of sound that captures many generations. And it is also the sound that has captured people around the world. So for me, it is a language of communication. It is an amazing set of music, it's ideas, and as my youngest daughter said, it's the coolest thing out there.
Quite simply, we've always been creative people, but it seems like people of color, especially Black people in the United States of America, we had to express ourselves through other means other than just talking it out or being invited to the table. So we speak that much loudly in culture. The culture of hip hop and rap music comes out of a larger culture, but it's the voice we could say is the determination, I should say the definition since 1970 or 1968 for our creativity and our expression and our outreach. And that's why it's always been infectious since that time. No, hip hop didn't invent us, but we looked at hip hop reinventing everything or redefining everything. And that's why it's so important. It's actually taking everything that was in the past and put it into a capsule and it then sprouted out to the whole world from that capsule of expression. Hip hop actually pays homage automatically as a curated situation. And that's what's made hip hop powerful. It never turned away from its past. It took its past and reprocessed it into a wonderful fruit of the future. And I'm a beneficiary because of that.
What is the significance of the Smithsonian recognizing hip hop in this way?
Well, to me, a project like this is pure validation. I've been waiting on a project like this my whole life. I've been an artist my whole life, and the Smithsonian is the highest museum in the land. It's pure validation. I can't say anything more than that.
How about you, Chuck?
The Smithsonian is documentation, like Say said, it's the highest in the land. We went to this place on school trips as kids and see how they archived and documented and made sure that whatever they wanted to find, they would have a conversation, a historical perspective on it, and then present it to not only this country, but to the world as study.
You know, so many things that have taken place throughout time as it relates to hip hop, where we were first shunned and then we were, adored and loved and recognized for what it is that we truly were doing. And although it felt like, they're just talking. Yeah, but what are we saying? What is the content? And how does that rhyme bump up against that track? So to first be, shunned, to even have that space on television to be awarded during the Recording Academy's, award ceremony called the Grammys, it just feels good to be recognized. So once again, this project having ties and being rooted with the Smithsonian, saying we want to commemorate this time, this moment, this form of music, says everything. So yes, it is completely validating. I think an anthology of this kind will bring a certain level of validity to the Smithsonian as well. Not so long ago, I would have said, wow, it's so courageous. But really, the Smithsonian is right in time with where they need to be. And that is right in the midst of all that has happened. And there's been such groundwork laid that it makes sense at this point that Smithsonian would come in and say, you know what, we can't wait any longer. This is the time.
What is the significance of this project, this particular time? Why now? And why doing a project in this way? What is so critical about this, where we find ourselves here in 2021?
I think this being the extra part coming after the existence of the African American Museum, because that story had to be told to expand the lens on history, so that history could be our story being told. Going into the narrative of hip hop and rap music makes sense after that move. And if the African American Museum would not have existed in that fight for that had not taken place, that would have made vouching for this particular music culture, which already have had our voices, whether it was LL out front, Say Adams doing the artwork, but it could also have been sampling a piece from anywhere to keep that culture and history and voice and currents. So hip hop has already done its documenting, but I think the museum was a necessary piece in order for this story to be set strong.
It's important that the narrative is right. Hip hop is arguably the largest cultural and artistic contribution to to come out of America in the last 100 years, arguably. And it is obviously because of the internet and because of technology, it's penetrating the world at a much deeper and quicker pace than other art forms in the past. But the narrative has to be right. We don't want the Mount Rushmore to just be based on chart positions, and that was the thing, for me with the anthology that was really important and that I had to push back a lot on, is this idea that people are only as successful as their current chart position. Or they, but, and I say this with respect, but when people talk about the Beatles, they're always referencing their former chart positions in their records, but that's okay. But when you talk about a rap artist, now all of a sudden, because an artist doesn't have the #1 album this week, they're not successful. So there's still a lot of kind of these little minor tweaks that have to be made in terms of the narrative of who hip hop artists are as artists. And I say this respectfully, we love to be #1 on the charts. I respect Billboard, but validation can't come just from chart positions and airplay or internet streams. There also has to be just you as an artist and what you bring. The impact that we make and the impact that we have as cultural artists on the world, I think needs to be documented correctly. And I think that this helps. There are a few references in there sometimes where they, to me, are a little heavy on the chart stuff, but still they're talking about the Dapper Dan moments and talking about, things that are important and breaking and things that matter to us culturally. So that's why I think, for me, it's really important that we lift up and elevate the culture for real, not just based on commercial success.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The big question for a lot of people is, how did we select these 129 tracks? And Chuck, you were part of that discussion, that one-day meeting on November 14th.
And I left that meeting. That meeting was crazy. I mean, L curates our #1, it's our flagship of hip hop and rap music on Rock the Bells Radio on Sirius XM. And he knows the difficult job of taking thousands of songs, thousands and thousands of songs. Hey, but that's why he's the grand poobah. We put it all on his desk. I was there that one day. I said, this is something that should be done. And I had to leave it to everybody in the room.
To begin with, we were all like-minded that we were going to take our time with this mission and we weren't going to rush. And we also had to be open. We had to be open, we had to be inclusive, and we had to be malleable enough that one would be able to change their minds. Because the way songs can be so personal. And I guess that's what makes a hit. What makes a hit is being able to resonate with so many people, and that it not be just a niche situation. And with hip hop, it can be that, specifically because we are from different regions. So it was important that we left ourselves free and flowing and open to be convinced that we weren't right. That we as each individual wasn't glued or stuck to a concept. And so that alone, was a mission, because when I think of, Stetsasonic from Brooklyn, New York, and all of their contributions, it may not have meant the same to someone else growing up, outside of the tri-state area. It was a learning experience, which I always love a learning experience where I can gather information and take it away, specifically from those who have a different point of view from a different point of view, not as a rap artist, but as an artist that creates, whether it's journalism or photography or just studying it, just being a student of the craft. It was very interesting. Yeah.
You guys gave us the right guidance, right? I mean, first of all, we asked important questions. What songs broke new ground? What songs changed the game? What songs really reflected a particular moment in American history? And then, what songs captured the audience? So it was all of those questions. But you all know, you can debate what songs we chose. I mean, that's part of the joy of it, right? Is that people are going to debate that. But we're very comfortable that after talking to, DJs and MCs and bringing scholars together, that we were able to sort of slowly cull that list down. And I think when we got it to 150, then the reality kicked in. You got to get it lower. And I was like, man, it was hard to get to 150. But I think now, stopping at 129, what we have is we were able to license 129 songs, and we were able to then say, this is foundation. Other people will go in different directions, ask different questions based on this, write about it in different ways, but this then becomes foundational, that all else is going to have to reference this work that you all did.
And especially, like knowing that 25 years from now, with this box set and this document, everybody is going to be OG status. So, it's almost like everybody's going to be Rock the Bell status, in another 10, 15 years anyway, whether they like it or not. So that's why you needed a room full of people that was able to look at time very wide and vast and linear, and be able to bring it back into something that, okay, this speaks to us as a museum piece.
And I think in those discussions, we talk about time, but we really talked about the story. That's what we tell in our museums. That's what Folkways, that's its unique niche in the music industry, is telling a story of hip hop. And it doesn't have to be the definitive story, but a story. So are there any songs on the set that you think people will be surprised that are included, and why were they chosen? For those of you who were part of the decision making or are looking at the final product.
Well, I would say that, you don't talk about impact, and I'm not saying because Vanilla Ice was a white rapper that had a big pop record that got picked up by SBK Corporation to even become bigger. No, I remember this dude opening up for MC Hammer and culturally making people go, yo, what the? And I remember when that record came out, most people thought it was a black record coming out of Dallas, Texas, and a lot of the college fraternities, especially the black college fraternities, I think it was Omega Psi Phi, used it as almost like a theme song before they knew that he was a white dude. So this record had a cultural thing going on in the swirl, and when they finally, people that followed hip hop and rap, they kind of already knew about this white kid coming up out of Texas named Vanilla Ice, because he actually opened up. He opened for us even. So he was making his independent regional area breakthroughs. So the narrative of, okay, it's exploded because, he's a white guy that goes to the top of the charts. That was the end of business. But in the beginning, he had heat. He had so much heat with that independent record. The irony that made it even blast even higher might have been the fact that he was a white guy doing this type of record. But initially, that record was so hot that it was breaking through on its own. And then the story came up out of it that, no, this dude is doing that record, which brought a whole lot of emotions in the table in the year of 1990, 1991. A lot of emotions there. So how could it not be a story?
There are times today I'm still dun 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 dun. It's just out of nowhere, and people look like, wait a second, are you singing Vanilla Ice? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, it's just something I hum from time to time. But it was an important song, whether some people like it or not, that deserves and has the right to be acknowledged as a part of hip hop.
Vanilla Ice, and I say this respectfully, I got love for him. Like, I love everybody. I'm not funny style, when it comes to ethnicity, race, etc. I'm not, you know what I mean? But what I will say truthfully is that it seemed like he sold like almost 80% of what Hammer did with like a third of the talent. You know what I mean? Like, Hammer was like making moves and doing stuff physically that, we was just all blown away by his dancing, his talent, his showmanship, and he took off and went to a whole nother level. And it was like Vanilla Ice had one single and did a little bit of a dance and was like neck and neck with Hammer. And that was when we said, that was the system at work.
Hey, Al, I wanted to bring him so bad to Def Jam, man. I went to Texas to bring him to Def Jam right before that cut hit. And he was like, I'm already tied up with my guys and all that. I'm like, because he opened up for us, Al. You're like, okay, go. Right. So I have a beginning conversation. Nah, he's wrapped up. He's got something else going somewhere else. Damn, okay, that's another one we could have had. And we could have vouched for him. But,
and Ice, he's a cool dude, you know what I'm saying? And the record, I love the record. I love the song. We love the song. It just blew up. And I think that's a good thing. So I'm not surprised that I played a song on Rock the Bells. Like, I'm not surprised it plays at all. You know what I'm saying? We were surprised at the speed and velocity that he ascended, but at the same time, the record was great and we did love it. And we're still talking about it to this day. So I think it absolutely deserves to be a part of it. I think they did a great job with the selection. I don't think there's any music in here. I mean, we can all as artists argue about, it should have been this song or that song, but I think that everything in here is very meaningful. When you see Salt and Pepper, you see Let's Talk About Sex. Now, you can say Push It, but Let's Talk About Sex. Like you could go, you got Bring the Noise, obviously Public Enemy. I mean, you can Fight the Power. I mean, there's 1,000 ways. All of these artists are super talented and have amazing, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have unbelievable catalogs with a plethora of work. But these stories, and I think the things that were chosen, it makes sense to me. Like Mind Playing Tricks on Me, All for One, Brand Nubian. I mean, that's real hip hop. Scenario by Tribe, Black Sheep, Choice Is Yours. I mean, you can't front on that. It was a Good Day by Ice Cube, House of Pain, Jump Around. Like, the Flavor in Your Ear remix. Come on. I mean,
how does it feel just for yourself as an artist to be one of the people who landed a spot on the anthology?
It is always awesome to be acknowledged for having done the work, and back at 16, 17 years old, performing on desks that were taped together in gymnasiums where so many people, there was sweat on the, condensation on the windows. Like we traveled back and forth and from Boston to Virginia to tell the world, who MC Lyte was, but also extending the culture. This is hip hop. We love it. We're going to do whatever it takes. And so to have done that and then all these years later, be recognized for that work and having a song that qualified, it feels awesome. It feels great. And I guess I knew going into the room that I would have a space. I just didn't know what song the group would feel was would be valuable enough to be participatory within it. So yeah, I felt confident.
Chuck, having been there, I was there too. Can you talk about some of the decision making that might have gone on, including a particular track, what you thought about? For instance, let's talk about LL Cool J. He ended up with 2 tracks on the anthology, aside from one artist who had 1 track. What were the kinds of things that were discussed?
I got to jump in on that because they treated me amazingly. I'm actually on 3 songs because of the Flavor in Your Ear remix. Just to say, like, my thing is gratitude and thanks. Like, Chuck has always been a wonderful advocate for me and always giving me love. I'm probably even bigger fan of his music than he is of mine. So it's like, it feels good to know that you're acknowledged. And I know that the artists will all feel great that they're acknowledged. Look, we all can go through what song, like I might, want to put together my 3 songs or my 2 songs the way I want to. But hey, it's about, this is the beauty of having your peers point at something and say, hey, I Need Love made a difference in the industry. I Need Love changed the game. You had other hits, but this particular song was something that wasn't being done and kind of changed the groove. So I respect that. You know, just speaking as an artist, I think that artists are going to feel great about being represented. Now, they'll all go through their individual stories. They're all going to have something to say about this or that, or that's not quite this, or this is not, but it's the right deal. It's the right deal. They did a great job.
And to be honest, when we built the museum, we knew people were going to do that. You know, I walked down the street just the other day and this woman stopped me and said, you know, my cousin should have been in that museum. Why didn't you put my cousin in there? So, you know, I know that's going to happen with this too, but that's okay. We did the best we could.
We have a wonderful genre. This culture is something else, and we got a lot of great music and a lot of great talented artists that do unbelievable stuff. So, but as long as you dot the I's and cross the T's on the sentences you do right, we'll get to the other sentences. You know, there'll be more. You know, they can be a part 2 or part 3. You know, Chuck spearheading it. He did a phenomenal job. I came in at the end, and basically all I did was kind of just take a look at how the artists were talked about and try to just encourage people to treat them like icons and legends and great artists, not like commodities. That's my pet peeve, just not seeing artists get treated like commodities. I don't want, and I've said this earlier, don't want artists to be only as good as their last hit. I hate that idea. I think it's the worst concept. It's bad for the self-esteem of the artists, and it doesn't lift them up, because hip hop for a long time was the only genre that seemed to treat artists that way. Not even jazz treated artists that way. But in hip hop, it's like, oh, you don't have a hot record. Oh, EPMD, we don't know you. Like, no, acts are important. So that's how I feel about it.
A lot of things have changed, like the proving grounds. Before, if you didn't have a record that seemed like it was whatever, LL Cool J would go there and eat your face off performing that record. How does a box set work in 2030 with the last, with the prior 15 years of artists starting in 2015, when streams are the thing and nobody really has a barometer of what is what? That will be for that conversation for the museum to have in 2032 or something like that. But as at least up to a comprehensive point in 2010 and a little bit afterwards, I think this is a signature, an exact signature.
Like, you know what's interesting, Chuck? Like, one thing I'll add to that, like, I'll give you an example of a really interesting debate or thought. Like, you look at the Cold Crush, Fresh, Fly, Wild, Bold, Flying Bold, Fresh, Wild, Flying Bold. The reality is their tapes were probably more impactful than that song.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we like the song, we remember it, you know, I don't know, because I'm the best, but Fresh. But the reality is their tapes are really the thing that they're like the Grateful Dead, right?
Right. That was the only capture of them, because they were the epitome of what hip hop is. It's like, it's sight, sound, story, and style. They covered all 4, and their sound, as far as recording, was the least of everything that made them great. You had to experience them. Absolutely.
So, I mean, it was done right. I mean, that's an example of where, you know, somebody had to make a trade-off to make sure that they were at least talked about. You know what I mean?
As you know, some of the very influential songs had to be left off the set because of licensing issues. And can you tell us a little bit about that process and how that works in the industry, particularly around hip hop, the challenges there too?
Yeah, well, you know, on the licensing side, a lot of times that boils down to just ownership, right? Who owns the masters or who controls the masters, et cetera. Like in my case, I can clear my songs. I own my catalog. But, you know, that was through jumping through fire hoops, lucky, crawling over barbed wire, negotiations, a couple of stomach crunches, some weights. Like, that was a lot of drama to get it, but I got it, right? So, but a lot of times that you have acts, the songs are in dispute. You have record companies giving away the store, so to speak, to sampler, to publishing companies who, you know, make requests. There's so many different facets of that. That's why at the end of the day, it's so tough for artists when you got a young kid, teenager coming from the inner city who knows nothing about business, much less the music industry, which is, you know, it's like trying to build a house on a cloud. You know what I mean? it's really, it really boils down to who owns the songs and ownership. And that's why it is so important. I can approve, my song being an anthology. I can approve my song being in a film. Chuck, me and Chuck, we've had moments where we want to use. I know Chuck don't play with the publishing. Chuck won. He won 99%. But you know what? He's right. But he's right for being that way though, because a lot of our music was undervalued a lot of times. You see, our songs being put in TV shows for like this much money, and then other songs getting that much money. Like there's so many little things that systemic racism, quite frankly, how it affects our music and how our music is treated. So that licensing piece, that's really about the artists owning their music or having a label that really cares about the culture. Like there are some executives and some labels that care more than others. For some, it's just about $1. Even the Smithsonian isn't immune to red tape. I mean, everybody, when it comes to licensing, when it comes to publishing, when it comes to being able to use music, all bets are off, baby. You know what I mean? It really is about the artists, it's about the ownership, it's about the executives and the people that are at the table and how they feel about it. And, I would hate to think that there were people out there denying artists the opportunity to be in the anthology, but I'm sure it happened. And, that's kind of scary. That just means they just care. They have zero interest in the legacy of the artist or the art form itself. It's just like a pure economic play. And there's nothing wrong with making money. We all like to make money. We all need to make money and want to make millions and billions. We all do. But the art and the legacy and history is important in and of itself, and you cannot forget that. I just hate that the Smithsonian had to deal with it, with licensing issues with artists, but hey, it's nothing new, trust me.
Right. You're talking about a guy that has to deal with 10,000 licensed songs on Rock the Bells radio. So, we like to thank LL Cool J and the Rock the Bells team also for being able to pay publishing for new songs as well as those songs that pay the old publishers. Yeah.
And you know what, Chuck? That's a good feeling, I gotta say, as an artist, to know that guys, their sound exchange is jumping, and that I'm seeing people like it affect lives. That's a beautiful thing. And that's why we need to be in positions where we have ownership and or influence and control of different things so that we can help each other.
Thinking about the music industry, Smithsonian Folkways has a real niche in that the albums, the box sets that come out of it is really putting music in a social and cultural context. Can you talk a little bit about the impact this type of box set, as unique as it is, might have on the music industry in comparison to other anthologies and box sets, the differences, and is there an added value in what we've put together?
Absolutely. I believe this anthology and the effort and the care and the love that went into this box set speaks volumes. I think so many other box sets are just made for money. And the heart that went into this comes from a completely different space addressing this box set. And then in addition to that, I don't see any other platform record labels that have put together a council such as this to participate and to really hear and to really listen. You have a group of people who want to tell the truth, who have put themselves on the line in that room to be, to create a point of contention, because no one is completely in agreement with everything. So already it's like, okay, I'm the one saying, I think Vanilla Ice should be included. No one wants to be the butt of what could be a joke, but more importantly, to flow up the river when everybody else is going downstream. So I think everybody came with the best of intentions, bringing themselves and the truth to get this done. The names involved are very different, which then comes with a whole nother level of experience brought in with those names. And then I haven't seen a great box set in years. I think they may have just let go of the concept of what it means to have a physical something in your hand because we've got all of this digital stuff happening. So I think it's a return to what is true and what feels good. And I'm happy to have been a part of this box set. And I hope that it's a series, that it can come back in a few years and tell another story.
Well, can I just say one thing about Say, just really briefly? Say, to me, and I'm going to say this as quickly as I can. Say, every time I seen Say, he brought a certain level of comfort to me, creative comfort, because I knew that things were going to be handled right. Whenever he was involved with my projects, whenever I saw him, whenever he would do backdrops, when he would do graffiti, anytime I saw Say, he was not just dependable, but I always felt like it was going to be excellent and someone who really understood and knew the culture. So that's why I think Say was the perfect person for this book.
The tracks are a critical part of the anthology, but the other half is the design. And you said earlier that you've been waiting your whole life for a project like this. How did it feel when you got a call from Folkways about participating in this project?
Well, it wasn't actually like that, and I really won't get into what it was like, but I will say this. It's a dream come true. And to have Lonnie at the helm, in my lifetime, I never thought I would see a Black museum that would celebrate us. And when I say us, I've known these gentlemen the better part of my life. We've been on the same journey together. And it is literally a dream come true.
So you've worked in a variety with your art as a creative director. How did working with the Smithsonian differ from your previous experiences?
I just understand the passion that's involved in bringing a project like this together. In 2016, I listened to Lonnie talk about the making of this museum right alongside President Obama. And for me, being on the National Mall, making a Black American flag as the backdrop for our story was the most beautiful thing I could be a part of. I still can remember that moment so well. Chuck, you were there. It was just a beautiful thing. I really get overwhelmed when I even think about it, because it was one of the greatest moments of my life.
Can you talk a little bit, once you came on board as part of the team, about your process and what was your favorite part in designing the box set?
Well, my favorite part of designing the box set was Smithsonian giving me complete creative control and understanding, like LL said, that I wear my heart on my sleeve. I believe in this project. I know the people in this book. I know the people in this music. These are my people, and I'm going to protect them with everything I got. I've known these gentlemen since they were young. And for us to all still be doing this at the highest level there is, it's like all I can say is thank you.
So what were some of your questions? You worked very closely with managing producer Mary Mansour. So when you and Mary would meet and have conversations about design, what were the things that were bubbling up?
Just that they understand that this is a culture that doesn't always get enough credit. People always get left out. For all the superstars, there are 1,000 people that will say, why am I not in this collection in some way, shape, or form? Whether they're illustrators, whether they're Black photographers, whether they're writers. There's a legion of people that this book is going to have to celebrate because they don't all get credit. And so we are, in a sense, ambassadors for all of the people that have left out of this, that have gotten forgotten, left behind, all of those folks.
So how did you incorporate that into the book? I mean, some of the choices of photographs, illustrations, objects in the collection.
Well, one of the things that I did was I wanted to make sure that I hired people that don't normally get the call. And I said, look, we don't have a lot of money. Just put that out of your mind. This is a legacy project. This is for us. Just please give me what I need so I can help tell your story as well.
Is there anything that you're super proud of when you finally got that final product in your hand that you want the rest of us to know?
Yeah, it is.
You hold it up.
To see Dr. Bunch get President Obama to give us a quote, this is the most beautiful thing I have been a part of in my whole life, short of my son being born. Holding this book in my hand is just pure joy. And knowing that I had an opportunity to make this with my friends that I've known for over 35 years, this is why I say this is a legacy project. And I just want to thank everybody at Smithsonian and Folkways for giving me the opportunity to tell my story through this particular lens.
I want to thank you, MC Lyte, for being part of this project, a member of the executive committee, and joining us today to just talk a little bit about the Smithsonian Anthology of Hip Hop and Rap. We are glad and very happy to work with you and have you part of this project, and we look forward to the big release.
Thank you very, very much. I'm excited.
Let me thank you all, because in my immigrant neighborhood in New Jersey, the biggest thing you could say about somebody is that they're good people who made us better. And through your music, through your artistry, through your creativity, you made not just black folks better, you made this whole damn country better. And so I'm humbled that the Smithsonian got to be a little part in helping to make sure the work you do, the music that you've created, the visual culture that you've created is remembered and most importantly, honored. And so I want to thank you. And my joy of building the museum was that it meant that as long as there was an America, black folks will be on the National Mall to be able to tell their stories. And you were crucial in helping us do that. So let me just thank you.
The Smithsonian Anthology of Hip Hop and Rap drops on August 20th. You can pre-order your own box set on the Folkways website at folkways.si.edu.